Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
And the aliens would mind meld and give them the technology. They're bad aliens. So are you surprised the Nazis were influenced by demons?
No, if demons are real, I would definitely think they'd be on the side of the Nazis.
Yeah.
McDonald's is connected to the Clintons. They chop up the bodies and put them into the sausage and hamburgers. People are being cannibalized. Look it up.
And I'm watching CNN talk about this as violent white nationalist protests. We have done everything in our power to keep this peaceful, you know?
It's Pepe's become kind of a symbol.
Welcome to Yeah Nah Pasaran, a show about fascism and its gravediggers. I'm Cam Smith.
I'm Andy Fleming.
And this week we are joined by the woman they call Antifa, Nancy Drew. Amanda Moore, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I guess just to begin with, you've been given this epithet by Luke Meyer, who was a campaign director on the GOP's Pennsylvania campaign. Unfortunately, his employment came to a recent end after a little bit of reporting from you. Could you tell us what you found out about Luke Meyer?
Sure. So back in July, you might not know about this, but somebody tried to assassinate Donald Trump. And it was, of course, the thing to talk about. And Richard Spencer, he was involved in the D-Torch March. He was an organizer of Unite the Right in Charlottesville, set up to be a speaker, all of that. He's got a podcast. And it was just such a powerful moment that his podcast co-host couldn't help but do an entire episode of the podcast about how he worked for Trump and was there for the assassination attempt. And maybe a week later, I got a message from someone telling me Richard Spencer's podcast co-host is really named Luke Meyer. And this is his Facebook, and this is his Twitter account. And so I kind of set off to verify that was true. And it turns out it was absolutely true.
I enjoyed the clues that you put together for this. It included reflections in TV screens, and I believe a girlfriend mother's Instagram.
Yeah, he got a girlfriend and got really sloppy. So I tried for, I think, a month or two to really figure this out online without having to go anywhere. So Trump Force 47 was the on-the-ground arm of the Trump campaign. So people were paid through the state GOPs instead of being paid through the campaign. So it was atypical. It's not how things have ever been done in the past, but there was a rule change that allowed for this to happen. And it was just really hard. This guy had no social media that wasn't affiliated with the campaign. So his Twitter account, there was nothing prior. It was only things about I'm working for Donald Trump, and then he got a girlfriend. And the girlfriend's mom couldn't stop posting. And she posted photos of Luke Meyer being in a weekend trip to Clarksburg, West Virginia at the exact same time that the podcast co-host, a guy named Alberto, had posted photos of being in Clarksburg, West Virginia. And of course, I don't own a car. I live in DC. So I really wanted to go confront him in person, but I was like, I got to be so sure it's going to be hundreds of dollars to get a rental car. And obviously I'm freelance. No one's paying for this but me. But when I saw those photos and the TV reflections, I was like, oh man, it's totally worth the drive and the rental car experience to get up there. And it was. I got to go to a Trump Force 47 event and I saw Luke and I called him by his podcast name, Alberto, and he pretty much gave it up. He asked me if I recognized his voice, which is more or less a confession.
Yeah, a massive failure of MomSec.
Yeah.
Amanda, what kinds of views were Alberto and Richard broadcasting into the world?
Well, the thing about his podcast with Richard is that Richard likes to hear himself talk a lot. And he would really steamroll Alberto. But what Alberto would say is basically Richard and I just agree on everything all the time. He idolizes Richard Spencer. This guy's 24 years old. He complained that he wasn't old enough to go to Unite the Right because he was still in high school. And he wanted to meet his racist hero, Richard Spencer. And, lo and behold, look how things ended up working out, even though his mother wouldn't let him go to Charlottesville. So on their podcast, he didn't get to talk a lot, but once he had this little bump in fame from having been at the Trump assassination attempt, he got to go on other people's podcasts and just talk about that. A lot of stuff about how Indian people are like the new Jews. There's just too many of them in too many positions of power, kind of taking over. A lot of disparaging stuff about Trump, his branding deals, his selection of J.D. Vance, which a lot of that came from disappointment that J.D. Vance has an Indian wife and mixed race children. He believed that Donald Trump would be the best candidate to create chaos, and he is an accelerationist, and that is why he liked Trump. A lot of stuff too on his social media accounts, Nazi imagery. At one point, his profile photo had actually been a black sun, but he had changed it to something else by the time, he was doing these podcast episodes about being a butler. And so just very, 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 bigoted, racist stuff all across the board.
It seemed for the campaign, he crossed the red line. I guess, a few days out from the election, you can't be saying, well, we're going to stand by our neo-Nazi campaign guy. But he did say to you, look, I'll be back. Well, what do you think now that Trump's back in? Do you think that red line's going to get a little blurry?
Well, I can tell you I have another story coming out very soon that I actually hope would be out by the time we did this, where a few more Hitler youth are involved with Trump Force 47 that I'll be writing about. And so I don't know. I mean, the campaign was pissed at me. They were freaking out, obviously. I could see them opening the email over and over. I sent out a request for comment on Friday before the election. And then we didn't get the story out until Monday. And there was a lot of pushback from the campaign. So basically, it used to be that PACs and federal campaigns, people running the whole campaign, could not be in communication with each other. But that changed in March of this year. And that's kind of how Trump Force 47 was born. So it's not like working for Turning Point Action or any of these other get out the vote programs that are also in communication with the campaign. This is actually funded by the RNC, and it's funded by the state GOP. They cut the checks, and I'm pretty sure the RNC reimburses it or pays for the program. So the buck stops with Donald Trump. It stops with James Blair, who's the director of everything. And they try to resist that and push back and say, that they weren't affiliated with it at the national level, but they were. I mean, there were not a lot of people working for Trump Force 47 across the country. So it was a really good job because it allowed you to meet people who were pretty high up in the campaign at the national level. A great networking program. And he wasn't the only one. I mean, there were other Groypers, Nick Fuentes supporters who were working for Trump Force 47, and I just couldn't move the stories. I couldn't get anybody to take them. And I'm sure that those people will get jobs in the administration in some way. And the campaign's response to the story, of course, they fire the guy right away. They have to. There's not a choice. I mean, I emailed request for comment to Luke at his Pennsylvania GOP email address, and he sent me back 5 paragraphs about how it was him for sure. And so there was nothing, it was not in dispute. But then the campaign banned politicos who ran it, and the campaign banned Politico from their watch party at Mar-a-Lago on Tuesday evening. So who are you really the most mad at here? Are you mad at Luke Meyer? Or are you mad at Amanda Moore and Politico,
And how was the rest of the Trump Force 47 rally that you attended?
It was so weird. So I thought it was the Trump tour bus, but Trump wasn't on the bus. Honestly, can't even off the top of my head remember who was there. A bunch of nobodies, but are still in the Trump world. So I thought it was going to be like the parking lot of a Walmart or something. No, I'm an idiot. So I get in my rental car, I drive all the way up. It's like 5.5 hour drive. And it is up a hill on private property. The cars, they're boxed in 6 rows deep. There's 50 people there. Really small event. And Richard and Alberto would talk about me on the podcast. So I know that we followed each other on Twitter. So I'm I know you know who I am. And I sent a video of my car boxed in to my friends. And I was like, well, if I go missing, it's because everyone hates the journalists here at the Trump rally, And it was just this really bizarre experience because the people there obviously love Trump. He's not even there. And it was a lot of them begging people to please vote early. And of course, nobody wanted to vote early. And and that was it. It was an hour of my life that I'll never get back outside of my 4-minute conversation with Alberto that made the trip worthwhile.
Amanda, how would you compare the Trump campaign in 2024 to the campaign in 2020?
I mean, it's weird. It's not, I don't know that it's comparable. In 2020, they didn't have a big ground game either. But now it was all so disjointed. I feel like, and it honestly felt like it was being done to make it more difficult to know who worked for Trump or like who worked for the campaign and who was representing the campaign. It was hard. Arizona wasn't even filing the federal returns they were supposed to file. So if you are a state GOP and you're paying people, you're supposed to say their names on your FEC forms. And instead, they were just saying, well, we gave the money to like paychecks, like the brand name paychecks that then in turn like handles payroll. But like, you can't do that. That's cheating. And it really felt like they were just trying to obscure the identities of people involved with the campaign. So there's that regard. And then in terms of like messaging, I mean, Twitter, it's a shit show. And it's so full of propaganda and misinformation, all of it pro-Trump, or before the campaign, or before the election, all of it pro-Trump. Now it's kind of crossed to the other side a little bit. But it's like just Elon Musk advocating for Trump on the website that he like owns it's completely bonkers. So as bad as 2020 was, it was worse this time by far, I think.
It seemed to me like dirty tricks are a part of every election, but maybe there were more dirty tricks, but also there was more just knowledge that they were happening. Like when Elon Musk's PAC is running pro-Kamala for being in favor of Israel ads, it's like, we know what you're doing. And everyone knew what he was doing, but they just do it.
Giving people $1 million a day. That's like bonkers. Like
brazen.
Yeah. I mean, Elon's original tweet was like, if you sign my form and you're registered to vote Republican and like it was like, it very clearly like crossed the line. Just his tweet alone, he's the head of the company. So like, I mean, stops with you, buddy. Yeah. Just shocking. I don't know if anything's ever going to happen about any of it. It doesn't really seem to matter. So I don't know. But yeah, it was bad.
Now, Amanda, you described the Trump Force 47 rally as being a bit bizarre, but you went to an even more bizarre rally recently, the Rod of Iron Festival. There's a bit of backstory to this festival. Could you tell us a little bit about Rod of Iron Ministries and who they are and what the Rods of Iron are?
So Rod of Iron is a spin-off of the Moonies cult. When the father of the family, who was kind of running that cult, died, two of the sons, they passed on to the mother, and she wasn't in charge of the cult. But two of the sons were like, Mom is actually the whore of Babylon, and we disagree with her ideas. And we think that Jesus actually manufactured weapons and ARs, and that he would like for you to have an AR, and we're going to have our own cult now. So that's basically what they're doing. It's two brothers, Sean and Justin. I think Justin, there's Pastor Sean, and then Justin is maybe Jesus reincarnated. It's a little unclear to me. And they also own a firearms manufacturing company, believe it or not. And so this festival is put on, it's free. It's got all these names. It's got Gorka. I think one year Trump Jr. was there. Jack Posobiec is there. And they put up these flyers that all around for like a 40-minute radius around their little property saying, come to the free MAGA thing, see General Flynn, see Ivan Raiklin, see whoever, see Gorka. And you get to go. And from noon to 4, you can go and shoot ARs while they're giving speeches.
Just like Jesus would have done.
It's exactly what he did because Jesus was an AR manufacturer. It's in the Bible, apparently.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I want more right-wingers trained in how to shoot ARs, but I am saying I go to a lot of these things, and having an activity to do made it way more fun than usual because the speeches are always the same. It's so boring. But I like that I got to just go shoot guns for a little while and go back. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, a nice little break from hearing about the Department of Retribution. Could you tell us a bit about this department and who's proposing it?
Oh, yes. My dear friend, Ivan Raiklen, who had no idea who I was when I jumped on the back of his golf cart, leaving the shooting range. He has this department that he wants to start up, and they will, I mean, we could say, I think assassination. I think that I did win that in the article with the legal team, because he does directly call for executions on television of people that he does not like, including Mark Zuckerberg. And so he also told us, we drove with him on his golf cart from the shooting range back up to where the stage was, me and a couple of other journalists. And he told us that things will be easier if Trump wins, because the Department of Retribution is going to exist no matter what. And if Trump wins, then the president will not be on the list of people that he will be seeking retribution against. So totally normal, sane guy. He's really weird too. I've met him a couple other times at the federal courthouse during January 6 cases. And he's a weirdo. He likes to go make faces at Fauci, who's like probably his number one enemy, whenever there's like a congressional hearing or anything, and he can get in the room.
Yeah, I guess the thing is, the people at these events are not outliers. So one attendee is going to be the new border czar.
Yeah, Tom Hooman, he gave a speech. And, it's very interesting. Tom Hooman gave a speech, and during it, he talked about how, we're going to be telling those immigrants to get packing or whatever. And someone in the audience shouts out, I wouldn't even let them pack. And so it's like, that is an energy that I have experienced over and over at events this year. I was also at the border in Eagle Pass, Texas, back in February, when there was another checker caravan, which Ivan Raiklen was also a part of, that went down there. And during the speeches, anybody could be giving the speech. It would be about how we're going to sue Biden for letting all these migrants in and whatever. And then you would get people out being like, we should execute the migrants. And this, the speeches are not extreme enough for some of the attendees. But then the people who are giving the speeches are elected officials or people who will be working in the administration. So yeah, it's not great.
It's ironic because Tom Hooman sounds like a name an alien would come up with.
It's true. Yeah, it does.
Amanda, can we expect mass deportations during the course of the next 4 years?
I think so. I mean, they're saying they're going to do it. And I think it'll start off with people who are probably violent criminals, because that makes it harder to protest. And then I think it will begin to expand to, watching families get separated in the Costco parking lot when you're doing your shopping. And I think it'll be easy to ignore at first, because I think most people won't really care about deportations, even if they're unlawful, of, people who are committing violent crime. But it'll be harder to ignore when it's people at your kid's school. And I think there's not really an understanding of how difficult it is, or an understanding of international law. I mean, you can't, for instance, deport people to Mexico who are not Mexican. That's just not how it works. And Mexico has said they would reject that. And Texas has tried it several times over the past couple of years to make it a state initiative. And now they're saying, no, we're not going to do that. It's very expensive to put people on planes and deport them to their country of origin. Especially, it's going to be very difficult to do that with anybody from China, for instance. Anywhere where there's not basically direct flights. And China in particular has also been very hostile to this idea. And so, yeah, it's going to be something. I think a lot of it is going to be rounding people up and detaining them indefinitely, because that's going to be easier than actually removing them from the country. But yeah, I mean, they say they're going to do it, and I see no reason to disbelieve them.
Amanda, is the militia movement preparing for this eventuality?
Well, look even beyond the civilian militia movement for years. I guess 3 years now. I don't even know what year it is right now. Abbott in Texas has been assembling a patchwork militia of United States military members. You've got the National Guard from various states, all in Texas. Why is that being allowed? I don't know. In Texas, in particular, Sheriff Brad Coe, who's a real, just nut job. he's the one who inspired Abbott to declare that Texas was in a state of emergency. And that's why they were able to bring in all of these National Guardsmen from around the country, because usually it has to be a hurricane or something, a riot. It can't just be like there's people crossing the border. But Sheriff Brad Coe had done that in his own county. And that's where Abbott got the idea. They met, and then a little while later, Abbott did this. And Coe had also tried to deputize these civilian militia groups. And he was going to, and it got some national attention and was stopped. And I actually don't think it's going to be stopped in the future. I think that will be okay. This is going to be, I mean, my prediction is as it is now, a lot of that militia activity is in Arizona. It's not in Texas, at the border militia stuff. It's more in Arizona than it is in Texas. And I think that we're going to see it increase both in Arizona and in Texas. I think it'll be kind of a rapid escalation, maybe. I mean, you've got, like, in Eagle Pass in particular, you had all these militia people staying there. And if you've ever looked at how it was to build the border wall, even 9 years ago, you would have all these places in Texas called colonias. They didn't have running water or electricity, but people who lived there had lived there for hundreds of years. And around the border, that was pretty common. So it's like when the Army Corps of Engineers was building the wall, morale was terrible. You're living in places without Wi-Fi. You're having to build the roads to get to where the wall is supposed to go. You are in places that don't have enough potable water for the amount of people that have to come in to build these things. And so you have to kind of build up and restructure a lot. And then once it started going to private contracts, a lot of that, allegedly, a lot of it was done by undocumented workers, or like people would just stay on the Mexican side, because in a lot of cases, the Mexican side is more built up. So all of this to say is that if you know anything about the border in Texas, then you know that being stationed there means that you have to do a lot of driving. You're lucky to have a Walmart. You're lucky to have a bar or two. And Eagle Pass has these things, but you still have to drive maybe 40 minutes to get there. And that's just totally normal. But Abbott acted like it wasn't normal. And then he started building this bunker. This wealthy couple, this wealthy MAGA couple, had all this land around the casino. And they were like, yeah, you can build this bunker. So why the hell is Governor Abbott overseeing a bunker being built to have a patchwork militia of actual United States National Guardsmen set up, at the border? And it's just like, I feel like all this is being done for a reason. And it's alarming. It's scary, and I don't know what will happen, but I just don't think it will be good.
Amanda, when Trump was elected the first time, obviously there was jubilation on the far right. This was our guy. Over the next few years, that jubilation turned to accelerationist despair as they realised, maybe he's not so much our guy after all. And now we seem to be seeing them in a quantum superstate of being both so back and it all being so over. What reaction have you seen from Fuentes supporters in relation to this second election?
Yeah, it's really weird. It really is this league. I think a lot of them don't know. I think a lot of them are struggling internally. I went to some of these rallies with different Groypers who are friendly towards me and speak pretty freely about how they feel about stuff to me. And they're, people I talk to a couple times a week, we text, catch up, and I've watched this happen. I've watched them go from I don't give a shit to no, we really need Trump to win. And I think they're cautiously optimistic. So I think a lot of the stuff that comes out is kind of bravado, where they're just burn it down. But I think a little bit of that thrill is back. That 2016 magic that I don't think that they have felt since January 6th. I think that's the last time people were very enthusiastic. And it feels like the Israel stuff is the real bummer for them. It's what's really hard for them to deal with. And I think if they could just make Trump never talk about Israel again, they would feel much more positive about him all of the time. But that does seem to be the biggest concern over and over. I hear that.
I was just going to ask Amanda what the point of tension was with regards Gaza and some of these groupers?
Well, they don't give a shit about Palestinian children, but they don't like Israel. And so, of course, they're going to root for any adversary to Israel. And they don't want the money going there. They don't want, like, Huckabee going there. That's very, like, the idea of Trump deporting people who are here legally enrolled in school for participating in protests, pro-Palestine protests, I think does, like, genuinely upset them. And there's not anywhere to go on the right if you're not a full-fledged supporter of Israel, right? Other than into Nick Fuentes' little group. I mean, that's pretty much it. On the left, it's much more fractured and much more divided by age. But on the right, that is. And so I think it's increasing a lot of hostility that they have towards Trump and towards the party. But of course, it's only rooted in hating Israel. It's not rooted in any humanitarian concern whatsoever.
What's going to be the sources of resistance to the Trump regime, Amanda?
I don't know. It's very clear. I mean, it's believed.
It's come from somewhere.
People are tired, and I think people were there was like a very brief period of time where I knew Trump. I knew that Trump would beat Biden. And then when it switched to Kamala, I was like, oh my God, thank God there's like a chance, And I was like excited about Kamala for a week because there was this opportunity that maybe that Trump would not win. And that would be so cool. And then it seemed like so much of it was wasted. And I think there's a lot of despair in the Democratic Party. And I think there's a lot of people who are on the left or left of center who do not believe that Trump is going to do the things that Trump says he is going to do. There's also people on the right who voted for Trump and love Donald Trump who are not lying to me. They have no reason to lie to me. And they genuinely just do not believe Project 2025 is real, And I think it's hard to say now because it's all abstract. And everybody remembers last time, but it was so long ago. It was so tiring. I mean, it was a lot. There were protests I lived in DC then too. It's like, I'm from here. And like, there were protests all of the time. They never stopped. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting when you look at it and you're like, to what end? The guy's just back again. But I think, mass deportations in particular, that will be something that we will you will see it. And the tariffs, we will feel it. I think that once it really starts to happen, people will do something, they will organize in a different way. But right now, I don't know. I don't see what's going on. Of course, I spend most of my time in the right-wing world, so I'm not very familiar. If there's going to be a left-wing protest, it's not like anybody's messaging me about it. But I don't know. I mostly just see like denial. And with the deportations, I see so many people saying stuff who will vote on the left, but who are not Democrats for the left in the party saying, well, Biden deported all these people. And it's like, man, you just have no idea what's coming. You just don't understand what's going to happen. And so I think when that ignorance is beat out of people, maybe things will change.
A cheery note to end on, Amanda. Thanks for coming on. I think that all of these episodes are going to end on a cheery note for a while. If people want to find you, you are on Blue Sky, No Turtle Soup 17, and people can also find your Substack, which has the same name. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Well, Andy, that is our show. We'll be back next week.
See you then.
Hi, this is Shirley Hood. Brr. You're invited to the 2024 Beyond the Bars CD launch on Thursday, the 21st of November at the During Centre behind the Collingwood Town Hall. I'll be there as MC for an evening of talks and music, including a panel discussion with some of our deadly broadcasters and live music with our deadly Bart Willoughby. Thursday, the 21st of November, the During Centre. That's behind the Collingwood Town Hall, 6:30pm until 8:30pm. Put this in your diary. Free CDs, snacks and drinks provided. All welcome, so I'll see you there. Brr.
Keffiyehs are Palestinian scarves, and they're a symbol of support for justice for the Palestinian people. From the traditional black and white keffiyeh to an array of modern designs, Explore the range and order online or drop by 3CR during business hours. We're your support for the rights of Palestinians. Go to kufiyas.org.au, that's KUFIYAS.org.au. A 3CR supporter.